All right, welcome to the 5-day challenge, and welcome to everybody. First and foremost, here on the Zoom call, you guys obviously made this a priority. I really do appreciate that for you guys showing up. We're gonna have a great time, and I'm also deciding to simultaneously broadcast the first part of this day's presentation to my YouTube channel. So this is for everybody who's just wanting to watch it through the live stream. However, when we get to talking about our first Sync Edge library and doing some track reviews this morning, that will only be for those of you that actually are here on the Zoom call. So if you're watching on YouTube and you do want to get access to the premium stuff of this 5-day challenge, you need to click on that link in the description box. You immediately will be emailed the Zoom links for all 5 days, and you'll just, upon completing putting your email into the box, you'll get the first link and all the links that you can just click on and join us right now if you want to, and just jump into this Zoom session. You don't have to, but if you want to get the sort of bigger premiums of this free challenge, that's where you need to get that, is in that link in the description box. So let's go ahead and just get started, guys. What I'm going to do is toss it over to my keynote presentation here. So I'm going to put this on camera here. And basically what I want to do is start to talk to you guys first before we get started, because a big part of this challenge is going to be about me wanting to ask you where you guys are at, because I want to really tailor this challenge for you and where you're at. I don't want it to just to be a one-way conversation where I'm just sort of steamrolling everything and just going where I think is going to be interesting. I really want to find out where you guys are at, what you're struggling with, and how I could potentially serve you better with this challenge. So the first thing I need to hear from you, this is where I need you to be interactive with this, is to go to the chat and type in what you're struggling with. Now, maybe you're not necessarily struggling with something, but what are you confused about? Maybe you're just super excited and you're kind of like eyes wide open, looking to see how you really succeed with sync licensing. Maybe you're not really sure about working with libraries versus trying to submit directly to a sync agent, or maybe a music supervisor. Maybe there's something that is feeling overwhelming to you. Maybe you're unsure of your, as we saw, Tara's now talking about mixing and mastering. Just getting started, getting off the ground, great. Getting responses, is your production good enough? Knowing what the libraries actually want. Fez, that's a great question. Let me go ahead and make this chat bigger, because I know there's going to be tons. We have already let's see, 100 of you guys that showed up already, which is awesome. I think we'll get a couple more as time goes on. Let me go back up here. Okay, knowing if your tracks are produced well enough from Don, great. Knowing where to go for placements, how to find opportunities, how to submit. Rolando, you want to get into bigger libraries. Okay, we'll talk about that. That's not always the best move, but there's definitely some pros for working with bigger ones. Chris is getting off the ground. He's got 29 tracks in Pond 5, but nothing really moving. Yeah, the royalty-free market, stock market can be tricky. Troy has 20 placements, wants to get more. Michael, hey, wondering about how to build a good relationship with library once you're signed. Great, and I know you're starting to get into that world right now, Michael. That's great. Approaching libraries from Turn It Up, Paul. Duke, finding an agent that's not trying to sell another sync course, that's also a consideration. Yeah, we can definitely talk about that. Mixing and mastering is a big one. Making connections, get some constructive criticism. That's definitely what you're going to get here, Julian. You're in the right place. Knowing how to finish songs in a timely manner, Kendall, cool. Finding a library, knowing what a library wants, library research. You have 2 albums worth of music, Evan, looking for the right libraries. You bought the library directory, cool. Not sure what sounds good during mixing and mastering, Jacob. Gary has a huge 1,000 song, 30-year catalog. Need someone to take my work seriously as a whole and specifically. Okay, it's a lot. You might want to think about starting your own library there, Gary. That's a lot of music. I don't know if parting with a library is the best move for you, but we can certainly talk about that. So finding libraries, okay. Okay, so Robin has a question about releasing music on Spotify and then also trying to go through the sync licensing route. What's the best way to do it? Very common situation, Robin. We'll talk about that. Finding the right libraries, okay. Having tracks not sit on the library shelf and collect dust. Very, very great question and point, Stefan. Okay, Marlon's been composing for a trailer library for 6 months, and they have yet to accept any tracks. Doing revision over revision. Okay, that's frustrating for sure. We can talk about that. Advice on production. Publishers being slow to take action on anything. Ian, you are not alone with that, my friend. We have all felt that pain of just slow action with libraries. It's not always fun. help finishing tracks. We're definitely going to talk about that, Mudco. Finishing tracks, getting a sort of sync system. That's a big part of this 5-day challenge. So, okay, so we got mini tracks, no placements, artist songs. I have full artist songs, library publishers, a difference. How to, okay, gotcha. If your library isn't doing enough with your tracks, how do you sort of promote them yourself, or what changes can you make? Great questions. Okay. Jack was in a Sync Academy, was in Sync Academy years ago. Didn't take it seriously, but just wanted to learn the business side of things and take it seriously again. Okay, cool. You're in the right place for that. So looks like we're kind of finding a lot of similar themes here. So it's, how do you find companies? How do you know if they're the right ones for you? How do you make sure your tracks actually get placements? How do you deal with the struggles of this business, of people not getting your placements quick enough, of you feeling like, are you with the right company? All of these kind of very, very good concerns and considerations. So we're going to talk about all that kind of stuff. So I feel that I have structured this exactly for all of you that are in those camps, and we're going to try to get through all of those. So we will go through a lot of different things in this first video. Again, this first day's presentation is really just about setting the groundwork about sync licensing and the great parts about it and the encouraging parts about it, the realistic side of it as well. It's not going to be all pump, 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 hooray. This is going to completely set you free and you're going to get rich quick and you don't have to really work hard. None of that's going to be a part of this situation. Okay, so you're going to get some realistic insights for how this business really works. So let's go ahead and just jump right into it. To get the most from this 5-day challenge, 4 quick rules. Show up every day, okay? So please do show up as many days as you possibly can. If you can't show up every day, show up as many days as you possibly can. That's how you're going to get the most education from this, the most insights, and you're going to feel the most prepared and ready to go by the end of this, okay? Try to silence, put away your phone, put away any distractions. You have notifications, anything else going on your screen. If you can try to stay focused just on this Zoom call, you're going to obviously get a lot more out of this. Be active in the chat. So when we start talking about this kind of stuff, when I start asking you guys what kind of genres you produce, when I start asking you specific questions about how I can be better useful for you in this chat, you need to be active in there. It's sort of a two-way street here, so I can be helpful for you guys, but you guys need to be showing up for this. And wait to post a track for my review until I ask for it, okay? There will be a specific point in each one of these days sessions where I say, hey, now I'm open to listening to some of your tracks and giving you some helpful feedback, but please don't post your track until I ask for that. If you post before that, I will not give you a review. It'll just sit there in the chat. So just so you know, some people are asking, should I email it to you? No, don't email me anything. It's going to be only during these chats, and there will be plenty of opportunities for you guys to get reviews, but I will essentially, how it's going to work, after I go through one of the catalogs for one of these Sync Edge libraries, I will say, if you feel like you have music that might be useful based on the kind of review that I just did, post it in the track. Let's take a listen. I probably won't be able to get through everybody's entire track, but I'll definitely give a good sample listen to your track, as many as we possibly can, and I'll just give you a sort of thumbs up. I think you're ready to go. You should submit to this library, or thumbs down or thumbs sideways saying, need a little bit of work. Here's what you can do to potentially get to where I feel your tracks would be on par with what their current catalog has, and you would be basically a good fit for this kind of company, okay? So please do respect that. Just wait till I sort of give you the invitation to post your tracks in the chat. But it's definitely not a bad idea to have a link to one of your tracks ready to go, so that when I do ask for it, you don't have to go searching for it and maybe leave the session and come back. It would be a good idea for you guys to have those. So that might be something for you guys to do right now if you want to. So let's go ahead and get into the harsh reality of sync licensing, but also what I feel is the opportunity. I've been doing this for now 6-7 years, Sync My Music specifically, coaching producers and musicians like you guys. It's, you know, a sad fact, but it's a fact. 95% of you guys are going to bail out. And I mean, you 100 that are here on the call, 95 of you are going to bail out at some point. Some of you already have, as we just heard. Some of you guys got started, didn't stick with it, and now you're coming back. It's just how this industry works. It's not a bad thing, but it's just a reality that you have to just be aware of, that it's going to be a small percentage of you guys that actually have the consistency to keep showing up to do well in this industry. Just keeping it honest and transparent with you guys. And for those 95% that do bail out and don't continue on with this for the long haul, it's not because they weren't talented or they didn't have the right skills or they didn't have the right knowledge. They could have all of those things and be completely amazingly prepared for this industry. This is just hard, right? That's the reality. That's the red pill. This is just a very, very hard business to succeed at. But because it's hard and because not many people do it, it's extremely rewarding. Okay, so it's not all bad news, and it's not all that it's just going to be you banging your head up against the window. it is going to definitely make you want to bang your head up against the window. But because it does that, it is extremely rewarding. Okay. I know that we're all looking for, how do I make money with my music with the least amount of effort in the shortest amount of time? That's just what human beings want. I don't necessarily think that is a bad thing, that we have that kind of inclination in all of us. I don't even necessarily blame that on like our culture or American culture or any of that kind of stuff. I think all human beings want to get as many apples out of that tree without having to climb it and risk their lives. If we can get a stick and poke it a couple of times and get 20 apples to fall down and it takes minimal effort, we'll all take that option, right? That's just what human beings are programmed to do. So because of that, though, a lot of people find that a couple of months, 3 months, 6 months into this industry, it doesn't work out in terms of them seeing sizable income or any income at all. And that's when that sort of question mark really bubbles up in their mind and they want to bail in, or bail out, not bail in. The 5% that end up do succeeding and moving on and starting to see significant results in this industry. Yele, one of our pro feedback reviewers, is here on the call. He's one of the few. If you want to know who these kind of people are, he's one. They figure out pretty quickly that you have to be a server in this industry. It's not about you. It's not about your music, really. I mean, your music does need to be high quality and, you know, original and creating something amazing, but it's not really about you. It's about them. It's about the brief. It's about the client. It's about the library. It's about the people that you are sending your music to and becoming useful for. If you can figure that out, and hopefully this 5-day challenge can help morph your mindset a little bit towards that side of the thing, of this industry, I think you can become part of that 5%. But that's definitely a requirement. Artists and producers, we can become our own worst enemies because we've got ego knobs that are dialed up to 10, and I'm not exempt from that. I definitely have a big ego when I'm creating music and stuff, and it's great. You should have that. But there's certain times and places, especially in this industry, where that knob needs to get turned down to a 2 or a 1, and it needs to happen pretty consistently. So this challenge that you guys are all participating with is going to help you hopefully find the right library for your music. That is the ultimate goal. That is what I want you guys to stick with me for. That's what I want you guys to hang with me for this call and for this challenge for the 5 days. And then, of course, I want to help you know if your music is ready to be submitted. So those are the 2 main benefits, and you're going to learn a lot more, but those are the main benefits you guys are going to get out of this 5-day challenge, okay? So the TV, film, sync licensing business and yourself. It is a over $328 million industry, and actually it's been growing every single year. I just looked this up the other day as I was preparing this presentation. Sync licensing revenue year over year has been growing since the pandemic considerably. So I see a bright future ahead of us. Of course, there's a lot more people getting involved with sync licensing, so there's maybe smaller little slivers of the pie getting divvied up with all the people getting involved, but the overall pie is growing. So there's some positive things to be looking forward to in our industry. There is a huge need for instrumental and now more primarily vocal tracks. If you haven't been following my channel a lot lately, you'll hear that a lot in this presentation and in this whole week. That in a lot of these sync edge libraries you're going to get access to vocal music is becoming almost a must for all of you guys. It doesn't matter what instrument or what genre you produce. So rock, hip hop, orchestral, EDM, it doesn't matter. Throwing vocals, even if it's not fully vocals, like, you know, verse and a chorus, but just having some sort of element of human vocals on your tracks is starting to become essential. It's becoming a mandatory asset you're going to have to provide for a lot of production music libraries. So hopefully you've got a vocalist you can work with, maybe your partner, maybe yourself, maybe a friend, maybe somebody that you've got a relationship with. But if you've got a high quality vocalist you got access to, hold on to them with both hands and treat them very, very well, because you're going to need them. And a lot of reasons is there's a huge need for production music is because A-list artists, like the major label artists, like the Taylor Swifts, Justin Biebers, Beyonce's, all that kind of stuff, they're expensive. To license their music, you're talking $50,000, 6 figures, sometimes $250,000 to get one track. You're talking about like a Beatles track or some legacy artist like that. It's just extremely expensive to license from them. So it's a lot cheaper to license to people like me and to people like you. So we are actually the cheap options for a lot of these companies, which is great because there's still some lucrative opportunities for us. You know, we might not be seeing the $250,000 sync fee because we can't really command that kind of a fee, but we can still see $5,000, $10,000, even $20,000, $30,000 sync fees for what we're doing here on this side of the industry. So it's still very, I think, exciting for that part of it. Now you can, and I hope you're figuring that out real quickly here, you can directly partner with libraries. I am not a fan of shopping services. I'm not a fan of you signing up for somebody, some service or some online platform for them to go find opportunities for you, and then you just kind of upload your tracks and hopefully somebody on the other side is interested in it, or you hopefully whoever you're partnering with is pitching your music off. I don't know. You don't need to do any of that kind of stuff. If you want to, God bless you. I hope it works out for you. But you can actually take a much more empowered, direct approach and directly partner with these libraries. That's what you're going to learn actually at the end of this first presentation when we get to our first Sync Edge library. Is you're going to get their email address, you're going to get their submission portal, and you can learn very quickly that you can directly partner with libraries. Now, it doesn't mean that every library says yes. It doesn't mean that every library even responds or even replies, okay? So it can be frustrating. So we're going to talk about how do we create a strategy to compensate for that. We're going to expect that on day one. We're not going to get ignored or rejected by our first library and then cry, boo hoo hoo, nobody likes me and they didn't give me a shot. That's what amateurs do. That's what the 95% are doing. That's what people that are bailing out of this business are doing. The 5% are expecting some rejection. I had plenty of rejection. Everybody I know that does this full time had plenty of rejection. So you got to bake that into your cake as you get forward, move forward with this, okay? Now, this industry is for producers anywhere in the world. You don't have to be in the US. You don't have to be in LA. You don't have to be in New York. You don't have to be in some major market. I have members and students and people that I know from all over the world, from all over the US, anywhere, okay? But you got to be able to create licensable tracks from your home, okay? So if you don't have access to your own home studio, your challenges are just going to be that much harder. I'm not saying it's impossible, but boy, it's going to be a lot harder if you have to go to a studio and say, can you guys make bounces and stems and cut downs of that track that I recorded in your studio 6 months ago? It's expensive, it's costly, it takes a long time. You need to basically be able to streamline a lot of this and become a one-man or one-woman operation and just control everything from your home studio. So if that's you, you're going to be in a really strong position. And then, like I said before, just bringing that service mindset to the game, not going to these companies and going, give me a deal. You need to take my music. I deserve this. You got to leave that all at the door. Come to them with an attitude of, how can I be useful for you? How can my music help enhance your catalog or basically help create some value for you and your clients? You come to the table with that kind of an attitude, you're going to be miles ahead of everybody else that's just spamming their music and expecting to get something out of this business rather than coming to the industry for the attitude of, I want to serve this industry. I want to bring something valuable to this industry. Completely different point of view and how you're going to conduct yourself, okay? I think you guys know who I am, but for those of you that might be new, I am Jesse Josephson. I have been doing sync licensing since 2008. It became my full-time income a few years into my career. I work for my modest, now it says home studio, but really now I'm in my modest office space. But for basically most of my career, I was working out of my home studio, which for the most part was actually also my bedroom. I just had a 1-bedroom and a 2-bedroom apartment with my roommate, and basically my room was my studio and my place where I slept. So I had the most modest setup you could probably have. I have no professional training or special skills. I did get a 4-year degree at a state college. So you could say I have some training in terms of recording arts, but how much of that I use today? Probably 5%, 10%. Almost everything else that I have figured out how to succeed in sync licensing came from just experience, from showing up, from trying stuff out, and basically screwing a whole bunch of stuff up and making a bunch of tracks that weren't licensable or weren't super high quality, having to swallow a lot of humility and have a lot of humility to realize I needed to get better at this stuff, okay? At this point, I have about 1,000 tracks in my catalog. You can see there on the screen, it says 4,000, but that also includes alt mixes, cut downs, a whole bunch of alternative registrations for those tracks. But basically, as I've been growing my catalog over the years, it's around 1,000 tracks that I've calculated at this point, and I am now up to over 7,500 TV placements. Okay, I've been making some videos on my YouTube channel lately. Sorry if those came off a little bit braggadocious, but I just want to let you guys know that I practice what I preach. I've done what I'm telling you guys that I do. And I do get results, and I'm just wanting to be transparent to show you guys it really does work. It is a grind, it is hard, but there is a sort of snowballing exponential effect that can come from using at least my strategy in this industry. One thing people are always saying is like, why would you work with a production company when you can go submit your music directly to a music supervisor? And I say, absolutely, you could. Could you probably get 7,500 placements through a supervisor? Now, I'm not saying that like my placements earn as much as a direct placement with a supervisor. Of course not. I think a direct placement with a supervisor would probably have a much higher sync fee than mine. So that's a fair point of criticism on it. But if you really see this as a sort of building your army, building a large number of tracks for a catalog to create consistent income, that consistent to me is a really, really important part of what I'm doing. I don't see submitting to music supervisors as a consistent source of new placements. Now, working with production music libraries, you can see, if you haven't seen those videos, you can check them out after this one. You can see all of my placements and that it actually has worked working with production music libraries. Okay, so American Idol, SNL, Kardashians, Nike, Ford, blah blah blah. You guys can see them all there. And it's so funny. One of the recent big placements, I guess it was a big placement, was Secession, which I kind of heard of that show, and somebody on my YouTube channel said, it's so funny how you're not that impressed with that. That's like one of the biggest shows in recent history, one of the biggest drama shows. I was like, I guess I should be more excited about that. I mean, I'm excited about any placement, but I haven't bought into the hype of that show yet, so I don't know that should be something that I should be really, really excited about. And that'll kind of happen as you guys get your placements. If you are more of a TV watcher, you'll probably be more excited about it, but I'm not a huge TV watcher. I do watch some shows, but a lot of the stuff that I see in my placements, I'm like, I kind of heard of that, maybe, I don't know, cool. Am I getting paid for it? Right on. I'm excited about that, right? And obviously I'm doing this because I want to pay everything that I've learned, everything I've experienced, everything that I've sort of gained out of this industry. I want to pay it forward, and I wanted to create a legacy that I really was helping basically the next generation of composers and producers to really thrive in this business. And that's really what is a big reward for me. So I hope you guys are getting some value out of this, okay? Now let's talk about the fun stuff. Let's talk about you and how you make money. So there's two types of payments in the sync licensing business, just as maybe just a review for some of you, but it might get you a little bit more motivated to just hear it again. There's upfront and back end. So the upfront is those consideration fees. Those are the fees that a library, not all of them, usually it's going to be the exclusive ones, and usually it's going to be ones that have kind of a larger, I don't want to say like a track record, but basically they probably are they've been established for a little bit longer. I find that newer companies don't necessarily have the kind of budgets yet to support those. Some of them do. It's not like a broad stroke, but not every library offers them. But when they do, it can be as low as $50 a track. It can be all the way up to $1,500, even more, $2,000 a track. It kind of depends on if you're providing, a track with full vocals. Depends on the library. Depends on all these kind of considerations. But not all of them offer a consideration fee, but some of them do. But it's the upfront fee to say thank you for allowing us to exclusively represent your music. Here's something for that sort of benefit that we're doing. And then it also incentivizes them to want to earn that money back by getting you placements, because they'll get placements by earning the publishing share. You'll get the writer share, and hopefully you guys are going to be splitting the sync fees, which is the next one there. And that sync fee is actually what you get when a placement actually comes through, and again, comes with a sync fee. Not every single placement comes with a sync fee. Some of them do. Usually you'll find that it's going to be advertising, and that's actually going to be one of the big focuses of our first Sync Edge library here in just a little bit. Blanket fees. Blanket fees are essentially when there's a lump sum that is paid from, let's say, a reality TV show producer to a production library to say, we will need lots of tracks, like thousands of tracks over the next year as we're producing all these different TV shows, reality shows, and commercials. So we don't want to negotiate for every single track that we're going to use. Can you give us sort of like a buffet arrangement where we pay you an upfront fee for the year or maybe a couple of years, and then we can kind of just come in and take tracks as we need to do that. So a lot of libraries do that because that increases placements and that increases the royalties, publishing for them and writers' royalties for you. Okay, so giving away. So this is a great question right here. So Jansen's saying, giving away my publishing for $50? No, and I totally understand that pushback, Jansen. But I want to ask you right now, how much is your publishing earning you right now? And this is a question for you, Jansen. I'm going to put you on the spot because you had a really great point of feedback here and you don't want to do that. So I want to ask you right now, how much is your publishing earning you right now? And please do answer that in the chat, because and I'm not trying to pick on you, but I really do want to make this a point, because this is something that I struggled with as well when I first got into this business. I was like, giving up my publishing to I make my fees from producing and mixing. Yeah, but my question was, how much do you make from publishing? So your publishing royalties right now, income, upfront, royalties, how much do you make from your publishing? That's the question. And you don't have to give a specific answer, but if it's zero, you can say not much, or if it's like a good amount, you can say a good amount, not as much. Yeah, so this is the question that I have for a lot of people, is a lot of producers come to a library and they say, well, I'm not giving up my publishing. And I say, great, don't give it up. What are you going to do with it instead? That's always the question. What's the plan then? Okay, so how are you going to monetize? This is something that you actually owned, which you had no plan for monetizing it. Nothing's happened yet, right? If you have a plan, stick with your plan, right? That's the big caveat here. If you're trying to go get a publishing deal, if you've got other plans with your publishing, yeah, probably working with a production music library is not the right plan. But so many producers and musicians have heard the meme, never sign over your publishing, without thinking about why. Like, why would you never sign over your publishing? Sometimes with a library, or sorry, with a record label, that makes sense because maybe a record label is going to be more predatory with their terms. Maybe that's not going to be really in the best interest of an artist. I understand that, but we are not in the record, and we're certainly really not even in the music business anymore here, guys. You got to realize we are zipped out of that industry. We are now in TV, film. We are in entertainment. We're in a completely separate world, okay? So if you've got no other plan for your royalties, for your publishing rather, and you're looking at an opportunity to potentially turn something that is basically like this, how do I explain this? Like your publishing is something that they're going to pay you for, which is basically an invisible asset. Like it's not doing anything for you right now. You're not really, it's like you're trading nothing. You're trading an invisible asset, you're publishing, which is basically kind of, I don't mean this in a bad way, but it's worthless. Like it's not making any money, right? If it were a company and somebody wanted to buy your publishing, how much would they pay you for it? Well, they'd say, well, how much is it making every single year? And you'd say, well, not much. Okay, well, I'm not going to pay you much for it, right? So it doesn't have a lot of value right now. But a library is saying, you know, I'll give you $50, I'll give you $100, I'll give you $500, maybe up to $1,500. Not only that, we can turn this into consistent potential royalties and income for you, right? So this is a mindset shift, right? This might turn you off, Jansen, and that's okay. Like this is not for everybody. This is why I want to be very transparent with how this industry works. Some people hear this and they're going, I'm out, and that's okay. But I want you to think about this in terms of if you can think about this in terms of enabling a new partner to really do well with your music, then this could actually turn into some significant income for you. Whereas doing nothing with your publishing and just holding on to something that's literally not doing anything for you could turn into more of an anchor and not so much of an asset. So anyways, we'll talk more about that. But thanks for playing along, Jansen. I appreciate that. Hopefully that was a fun little exchange. And then, of course, back-end royalties, that's the performance royalties, PRO, BMI, ASCAP, all that good stuff, okay? With libraries, your focus is going to be on the back end. Yes, you can get some consideration fees, some sync fees, but I'll be honest, in my career, those are not like the primary bread and butter where I'm really relying on for my income. It's the royalties. Royalties is really where I want to look at in terms of having the most amount of income. If you're going to do some direct licensing, like that would be if you are going to try to submit to a music supervisor or you want to literally yourself negotiate with somebody that has some piece of content, you probably want to focus a lot more on that upfront fee. You can probably negotiate a higher sync fee if you want to do something like that, okay? Now, you do need to be a writer with just one PRO, okay? So you can do BMI or ASCAP. CSAC is private. It's basically, they're not going to take you on unless you have some royalties already coming in. So for most of you guys, probably not going to fit in that camp. I'm with BMI. I highly recommend BMI. They don't pay me to say that. I just have been using them since, I think it's been 10 or 11 years now. Was with ASCAP before. BMI, I still feel is a better deal. I feel like they pay out better for their, especially their instrumental background cue placements. So I just recommend them. So if you're not with one of those, you definitely need to go consider getting joined up with one of them. And I think they both charge now, unfortunately. A few years ago, they were free, but I think BMI now charges like $75. Maybe some of you guys can look into that. And Yella is also talking about neighboring rights. That's a whole other can of worms, Yella. You're absolutely right. We can't talk about that probably in this presentation, but that's something you guys should be aware of, okay? So the best parts, syndication, that's where obviously your tracks get played over and over and over again because a TV show like Seinfeld never goes off the air. That's long-term royalties. That's basically huge, awesome, amazing income for you guys if you guys want to get into this business. One track can be placed multiple times in multiple shows, so it's not like one track gets placed and it kind of like it burns itself out. No, you can get tons of placements over and over and over again with multiple shows. International royalties also come in, so if you're not aware, when you get a placement in a US show and that US show maybe gets sort of dubbed in another language, goes to another market, you obviously still get those royalties. And also, if you work with certain libraries who have sub-publishers in other territories, your music not only goes into the US market, but it also goes into all their sub-publishing markets. So you might be getting royalties from shows and clients you've never heard of. I get those often with my royalties, and stuff that I never would have even known to go try to shop my music directly. So working with production music libraries opens you up to new clients you never would have had access to. You, of course, can work from home if you want to. I had one student that just bought a boat. He's literally living on a boat, composing music and sailing, I think, throughout Europe or something like that. So you can do this pretty remotely if you want to, as long as you have an internet connection. You can make your type of music. You don't have to make cheesy jingles or horrible stuff that you just, you're cringeworthy. In fact, the more original and authentic and cool like your music is, probably the higher your success rate is going to be in this business. You don't want your music to sound like something else. You really want to make it like yourself, your authentic self. Of course, you need to follow some, guidelines and some, golden rules, I call them, to make your tracks licensable. But it really needs to be authentic to you and the kind of music that you really would be making with or without sync licensing, right? Reference tracks and briefs will help you in this business. So you don't have to like guess, like as an artist, you're like, well, I'll just throw out some music and hopefully some people like it. They'll tell you what they're looking for. Like a library or a client will say, hey, we're looking for music, like this artist or like this composer. And, we wanted this tempo. We want these instruments. We want it to be this long. We want a specific break moment at 15 seconds, whatever. They give you the blueprint for how to get these gigs. It doesn't mean you always get them, but it does help you sort of figure out how to really succeed in this business. Okay. Now let's talk about some real money, some real numbers. This is definitely possible, but not easy. Okay. Upfront sync fees for TV film range from $1,000. Sometimes they can even go down into the hundreds to over $100,000. Okay. Now, $100,000, not going to see that often. You might see that once in your career. I've only seen a $100,000 opportunity one time in my 15 years in this business. Okay. They exist. I'm not trying to like be a wet blanket, but don't expect those. They're not coming every single month. They're probably not coming every single year. So if you're going to see something huge like that, it's going to be an international. The one that I saw was for a Huggies International commercial. Okay. Most of the time, what I've seen with production music libraries, it's going to be to 3 to 5K, maybe up to 10K for a bigger opportunity, but probably nothing more than that when you see opportunities coming through a production music library. We are a little bit more on the cheaper side of this business. Working with, again, those A-list artists are going to be where those bigger sync fees can come from. Okay. Now, performance royalties, that's what you get from your BMI or at your ASCAP or wherever you are around the world. And somebody was asking about which PRO should I join if I'm in Europe. There are many different ones in different countries. So just type in whatever your country name is, performing rights organization, and you should be able to find whatever it is that is. You can partner directly with BMI and basically not work with your direct PRO, but you need to essentially go search and find out and contact them and ask them how you can do that. Because usually you have to sign or fill out some sort of a form to say, hey, I want to waive you representing me and I want to get represented by BMI. Why would you do that? Well, if you want to work primarily with US libraries, and that's what you're going to find here with this 5-day challenge, you probably want to work with BMI. You want to keep all of your sort of chickens in the same hen, or in the same pen, if that works, right? If that makes sense. If you're going to be doing a lot of your work in the U.S., you probably want to have a U.S.-based PRO. The minute you start doing work in this country, but you have a PRO in a different country trying to track the royalties and create this kind of connection, the higher the chances are that things can slip through the cracks and you lose track of things and people missing royalties and all that kind of stuff. So to reduce all of that kind of potential loss for yourself, just keep everything centralized in the same country that you really want to do most of your work in, right? My highest single placement earned royalties. This wasn't a sync fee, but this was literally a royalty on my, I think it was it ASCAP or BMI? Because I used to be with ASCAP. I can't remember which one it was, but it was about $2,800. It was actually for a placement in Germany. No idea what it was for. They don't give you any details on it. It just says, Germany, this song, $2,800. Congratulations. I don't know, but I'm excited. I don't know what it was about, but just give you guys, that was sort of my personal record. Streaming service royalties right now, so that would be Netflix, Hulu, Disney Plus, that kind of stuff, are extremely low. They're probably like a 90 to 95% pay cut on what we're earning with TV and film. So right now, still focus on TV, film royalties and placements. I think this will change. As more and more advertisers jump into the space. Right now, all the income from streaming services are only coming from the subscribers. And so they're just not getting the revenue that cable and network has, because cable and network not only have those subscriber fees coming into them, cable particularly, but they've also got a lot of advertising money coming into their industry. So right now, we're kind of in this in-between state where it's not great for the streaming services, but I do feel optimistic that they will grow in time, okay? Now, realistic annual incomes. This is with full-time effort. And again, this is not a guarantee. I can't tell you this is absolutely going to happen for you. Some of you will not get anywhere close to this, and some of you will go well past this. Okay, so this is not, I always hesitate to give like actual numbers because I don't want people to get false expectations. Well, Jesse said this and I'm not earning it, so therefore he misled me, or, Jesse really undersold what this business could do. It's both sides of those things, okay? I'm just telling you in terms of a general average I've seen for the producers that have done well in this business that are giving it full-time effort and have super high-quality music, right? And really importantly, partnering with the right companies, not just throwing their music out to whatever, but they've really done their homework and they're partnering with high-quality companies that they have personal relationships with, okay? 20 to 50K a year, I think, can be done if you're doing primarily background instrumental work. Okay, so that's primarily what you want to focus on. Again, vocals are going to have to start being a part of that no matter what. But if that's primarily what you're doing and background instrumental tracks are what you're kind of getting most of, I think that 20 to 50K and this is probably within, it could probably be 5 years. It's probably where you could potentially start to see this level of income start to creep up. Some are much sooner. Okay. I've had students that blew past 20,000 within a month of getting into this business. I've had another student, I think it was 5 years, he'd only made $2,000. Okay. Total, not per year, $2,000. I think it was total. So again, this is just an average. This is just something that I just had to put out some kind of a number for you guys to get an idea. It's not millions, okay? We're not becoming millionaires in this industry. I think you guys know that, but it's something that can turn into some significant income for you, okay? Now, if you want to go from that $50K to $100,000 or even plus, which I know people that have gone well beyond that, that's where you're going to really need to focus on vocals for sure. Vocal placements usually get paid a lot more, and featured and themes and jingles, right? So the tracks that actually go to the theme of a TV show or go in the foregrounds of some of those things. That's where that kind of placement and that kind of income can really start to take off for you. Okay. So, and again, not guarantees. Anyways, I won't keep putting that out there, but I just want to give you guys sort of an idea of what you can expect. So what pays the most? Well, there's various types of placements. There's vocals, instrumental, featured, background, source. That's where if like somebody's in the dance club, the music coming out of the dance room after the speakers is literally your track. That's actually what happened with me in that TV show Succession. It was one of my tracks was playing in some dance club that they were having a conversation with. Themes, that's literally the music that's behind the kind of the opening credits of a TV show. Jingles would be like a commercial, like a McDonald's or I don't think Starbucks has commercials, do they? But anybody that has sort of like a recognizable song that goes along with their brand. Themes and jingles are, of course, the top earners. They're providing the most amount of value to tie an audio or a piece of music with a brand. More eyeballs generally means more value, so generally you'll get more money for that. Of course, there are exceptions to the rule, but if there's a lot of eyeballs, there's a lot of value that your music providing for this, generally then you see higher placements higher royalties. Factors that determine what you're going to get, which network did it air on, what time did it air. Like 4 a.m. is not as valuable as 10 p.m. on a Thursday or a Friday night, right? Prime time. The use type, was it jingle, was it background, was it source? That all makes a difference. The ratings of the show, and there's plenty more. We don't get to see exactly how any of that's calculated by the PROs. Thank you, BMI and ASCAP. Kind of frustrating part of our business, but it's just the way it is. They keep that sort of under lock and key. Syndication, of course, is that great potential for this where you can see that exponential growth for your career. Okay, so let's talk about the timeline for success. How long could this potentially take you? It will take a long-term mindset, as I said before. Consideration fees are paid out immediately for those libraries that you do work with. Again, not all of them, but they're going to be those exclusive ones that have the budget to be able to pay you a little bit. So it could be some pocket change that can take care of some of your bills fairly quickly. Royalties take a year to be paid out. Okay, so just so you know that, this is a very slow-moving market once you get your placement. Congratulations, you get to wait a whole year to see how much you earn from that. Would it be a lot or would it not? And it took me about 3 years to start seeing encouraging income. So I didn't have full-time income, and I didn't have, I would probably call it part-time, teetering on part-time income. But when I call it encouraging, I mean, it was enough for me to start to feel like I can start to take the foot off of the pedal of all of my other gigs that I was working on. I was freelancing, doing video work, all that kind of stuff. When I started to see some of these royalties grow and exponentially grow, it gave me this confidence that this can be something I can pour more of my time into. I can pour less of my time into my other hustles. I think that's probably what's going to be the case for most of you. You're going to start off just kind of using your nights, your weekends, your free time to kind of compose some music, but most of your time is going to be for your day jobs and your gigs and anything else that's currently supporting you and supporting your family. As the months and years roll on, hopefully you can kind of turn that dial away from those other gigs and more into sync licensing. At least that's what it was. It wasn't like one day I quit everything and I wasn't doing anything else. It was sort of like a slow dial that I kind of started to crank more and more and devote more and more of my time to this. So everybody's got their own different, situations, but I'm just letting you guys know what happened to me. You can do this alongside your current jobs, your gigs, whatever you're doing. Of course, when I started, I had a day job. I had a horrible day job I hated. But every day, 6 p.m., run on home, make music every single day. Weekends, nothing but Red Bull and Logic Pro 7, I think at the time, or 8 or whatever it was. And that's all I was doing for basically a couple of years. It's like day job, sync licensing, day job, making music, day job, making music. So you can do this all alongside of whatever else you're doing. You might not be able to give as much time as you want to, but we'll talk about this. Consistent time is actually more important than going like 40 hours a week or 80 hours a week right now, and then in a couple of months you burn out because you just didn't have the longevity. It's better if you give just a couple of hours a week right now, but consistently give that couple of hours so that you can kind of grow that as the years go on. And this 5-day challenge is meant to be a super boost for you guys to get you ready and prepared to really thrive in this business, okay? So this is where we're going to basically cut off the YouTube stream, and this is now only going to be available to all of you that are in the Zoom chat. So tomorrow we'll get our second music library recommendation. We're just about to go to our first one right now, and we'll start doing some track reviews again for those of you that attend, and we will begin creating your sync system. That'll be the presentation for tomorrow. So for YouTubers, we're about to say goodbye. We'll see you guys later. Thank you so much for watching for free, but we're going to now go into the premium stuff, looking at our first music library recommendation and maybe check out some track reviews. I know we're going to go a little bit beyond an hour today, but that's cool. We'll hang out. So let's go ahead and stop our YouTube.